Election season has kicked off in Israel in the most tumultuous political period in the last 4 years. The Haredim have succeeded in passing two of the most contentious laws in the country's history, right as an election date has been announced. Will Netanyahu be able to navigate his way out of this? This is the Deep Dive. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. I'm your host, Jacob Laznik. An election date has been set for October 27th, and the parties are doing their utmost to send out the messages to kick off and get as much support as they can. The Likud, on the other hand, has unleashed a legislative blitz to try to pass as many of the laws that they've promised to their base as possible. In some aspects, they've hit a wall. But where it matters the most, in terms of Haredim and the draft crisis, they've managed to succeed, causing uproar in public and even against the wishes and warnings of other officials and the IDF chief of staff himself. Not only do these laws challenge Israel's constitutional normative status, but they come at a time where Bibi is at his most vulnerable. The uproar even got so loud that Deputy Foreign Minister Sharren Haskel resigned from her job, and Ofir Sofer, the Aliyah minister, announced he will not be running for the next election. To try to make sense of all of this, we're going to talk to Shir Perets, leading breaking desk manager, who's watching these things come in live to help us break this down. Shir, thank you for joining us yet again.
Thank you for having me.
So, election season has kicked off.
Yes, it has.
We have Likud primary battles. We have a date for the elections. Tell me about it. What do you know?
Well, it's not just Likud with primaries. We've got three major parties all in the next few weeks. We have the Democrats on the 20th, I believe. Mm-hmm. Religious Zionist Party is going to be having theirs on the 24th, I want to say. And I believe Likud is August 4th.
Is that final? Because I know they've been fighting about it, about when they actually have days and Shirionim and the spaces and whatever.
According to releases sent out from the Knesset, those are the final dates. But of course, everything can change. Everyone in the Knesset loves to, delay things for as long as humanly possible.
Absolutely. And I think we're seeing a very interesting parallel here. So there has been a set date for the elections, which is October 27th. Mm-hmm. And while I'd say every other party is kind of transitioning into this election mode of, messaging, Likud, on the other hand, has kind of realized that the timer is running out to actually move the needle in some ways, and they're actually going through an insane blitz of trying to pass legislation. Yeah,
Netanyahu has claimed, or I guess people have claimed that Netanyahu believes, is better to say, that pushing forward this blitz of mostly Haredi-backed bills mm-hmm. is essential for him if he wants to have hope of creating a coalition in the 26th Knesset.
Right, which is a bit counterintuitive because he's also promised to have a more, broader, wide coalition. And it's kind of hard to square those two things together. How you can have...
Politicians promise a lot of things.
That's true.
But at the end of the day, it is known, the Haredi politicians, if this entire 4-year, cadencia, if this entire 4-year term has made anything clear, it's that the Haredi politicians know exactly how much power they hold over Netanyahu, over
Absolutely.
Netanyahu bloc, as they would say. And all it took was, it's been such a recurring theme over the past few weeks. If I want something, I will simply threaten to support a state-backed probe into the October 7th massacre. And oh my goodness, 3 billion more shekels have headed my way.
Right, which as a side note, I think we could all agree how insane that is. To trivialize something like finding out what happened on the day of the worst day in history of the country. But, before we go into the splits of the actual parties and the big developments, here's a question. If we take a pause out of looking at politics and elections for a second, and we take a look at, the broader picture of the Middle East, how things are standing right now as we film, if you take just a snapshot of right now and you forget everything else about the past 4 years, you forget about the conflict with Iran, you literally you just look about right now, I would say that Israel actually is in a pretty good place.
Yeah, if we're talking outside of ourselves
right.
for a moment, and if we're looking at the broader Middle East conflict, for once, honestly, the big deal of the moment, the headlines of everyone's newspapers, and has nothing to do with us.
Oh, no, that too. That's not even what I meant, but absolutely. But if we look at the conflict, just a few weeks ago, we were terrified that Trump was going to agree to this memorandum of understanding, mm-hmm. which would just give...
Which he technically did, and then probably revoked it.
Right, but we thought it was going to go through, mm-hmm. and then he would end up giving Iran what they love to say, pallets of cash, and Absolutely.
Anywhere in between 25 billion to
300 billion.
25 billion.
Absolutely terrifying. With no real assurances from the get-go. And not only was everyone terrified, but a lot of people in Israel, including security officials, including politicians, were just confused. How could Trump do this to us? How could how could he betray us like this? If you ignore all of that and you look at the current moment, Trump is saying it's not happening. I'm done with them. There's no negotiations going on. We're reblockading the Hormuz. There's been back and forth strikes for the past few days. And now the rest of the Middle East is involved. So essentially right now is you have an interim U.S. Middle East alliance attacking Iran and getting attacked by Iran. For I think the first time in history, Israel's just chilling on the side. No missiles, no sirens.
Yeah, I think there's something in particular, the way I've understood it is, say if Iran, not if, they have done it. If Iran strikes a U.S. base located even in Jordan right next to us, then the U.S. will retaliate, obviously. Same thing goes with Bahrain and Kuwait, but it's only going to be the U.S. But if Iran were to strike the U.S. base in Israel, now they'll have two countries attacking them. And it stands to reason that that's not, something they want to get into right at this moment. Attacking you is worse.
Well, actually, I'm not so sure because, again, if the fact that the entire, no, I know, but if the entire Middle East is fighting Iran, I would say I don't literally mean this. This is a very convoluted way to look at it, but it's not kind of on the behalf of Israel, because it's kind of we went into this conflict and now this is just a recurrence of aggression over the Hormuz of a thing that started, and we don't even have to divert resources to it. That is a good position for Israel to be in if you think about it in a convoluted way.
We started this out looking to secure the safety of the Israeli people and to get rid of the big nuclear threat. I think it was always known that the U.S. president has different priorities and the U.S. government will have different plans for the future than we do. And for them, I wouldn't say it was never about safety for other people, but obviously money, the control of the strait was always a major factor for them.
Yeah.
And it never really was for us. We like we like when things flow freely because we like getting our packages from AliExpress, but it kind of ends there. This is not, it's true. We, shipping stalls across the world whenever this stuff ramps up, and it's not something we've ever been interested in. I don't know anyone who has ever pushed for, and we will control this piece of water beyond the beaches of Tel Aviv. None of us have ever cared too much about it.
Yeah, it really doesn't make a headline unless it's related.
The broader geopolitical issue is just not that big a deal for Israel, so we have no reason to join in. The reality is if they're getting hit, and Trump knows they want their nuclear stations, nuclear centers to remain intact, so that's why he's targeting them. It's a great situation for Israel to be in. We can just watch, as they say, not our circus.
But then
maybe our monkeys, but not our circus.
But then here's the problem: if you're Netanyahu, and we'll get into it very shortly, but this has not been a very popular week for Netanyahu politically. On the one hand, Likud has failed to pass a bunch of legislation that's really trying to get through. On the other hand,
it has succeeded
in pushing laws that
off.
So if you're Netanyahu, do you not get involved in Iran because essentially we kind of have again, this is a really messed up way of putting it, but other countries doing the dirty work for us?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you re-involve yourself in the conflict? Because as we've seen time and time again, every time Netanyahu involves, we get into another round with Iran for a nice 2-week period, his approval rating shoots through the roof.
He does. And it does just so happen that right now he would need a nice boost leading up to elections.
Yeah.
Obviously, Eisenkot has successfully passed him, Bennett, everyone leading in the polls. But there is also the matter of, I don't know if I think with every time it happens, the boost, and I might be wrong, but the boost would seem to get less and less the more people get tired. Because, the first time.
It's diminishing. For sure.
Every single time you're going to get, the country gets ramped up and we all come together and we're like, yes, Am Yisrael Chai, we're going to do it. And inevitably we don't.
Right.
And a few months later, you're never going to recreate that same level of hype.
So October 26th, we're just going to do one big hit. Just to boost the numbers up and then back out.
There's always, here's the thing. The truth is with there's the matter of, call it how long they've been in politics, how, you're never going to be able to fathom what's going on in these people's brains. Like,
That's true.
There's a million different moving parts happening. And it's just, trying to understand it is not worth the time for anyone. So it is like there's always going to be the chance that logic would carry of, well, if my approval ratings soar right when I strike, I should time the strike for closer to the polls.
But not too close so that they can't vote afterwards.
Yeah.
Because everyone's no. We'll see. If you ask me, I think we're gonna have to have some kind of aggression-based attack, something with Iran before election.
There's also the fact where it's not entirely. It might not be worth the risk. Because for one, yes, you get with how I think even right now, if you were to start something right now, the security situation wouldn't be able to go back to normal probably until fall. And it would be, I would also say, Israel, I mean, as a country, we do time our wars for summertime. This is a known thing. But I know a lot of people personally, myself included, who are very excited to not have a war this summer. We're very excited to enjoy summer vacation.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
You wouldn't admit that you would be pissed if suddenly the beaches close again.
I mean, personally, I have other priorities as to why it would suck to go back to war, but sure.
But we're all so desensitized to it as well that I actually do know a lot of people who would be like, I mean, we've got these tankers that aren't leaving Ben Gurion, and now there's flights at risk. I mean, come on.
Yeah, there's consequences.
There's dogs and cats that want to go to the park.
Yeah. Also, I think Israel needs more dog parks, but that's a whole other episode.
Israel should have a cat park.
That's a whole separate conversation. It's the dog parks in this country are depressing.
They are.
Anyway, let's move on to Netanyahu's apparent number one contender right now, Gadi Eisenkot. So I remember a few months ago when he kicked off his separate party and his campaign career, it was probably one of the most uncharismatic, demotivating even political speeches I think I've ever seen. He had a press conference. It's very monotone. They asked him, "Do you think you could be prime minister? You're appropriate to be prime minister." And he was like, "I'll do what the country." It was genuinely, I thought he committed political suicide in the first 5 minutes of his career.
Yeah.
But now he's really ramping up in the polls. So interestingly, not only is he overtaking Netanyahu, but he has replaced to be the front runner from the Biachad coalition of Bennett and Lapid.
Yeah.
It's interesting because for a while now, Bennett and Lapid seem to be the alternative, sometimes front runner, sometimes a seat behind Likud, but the popular thing to go because it's this coalition of right and left and whatever. Whereas Eisenkot has been very just pragmatic, security needs of the country. So why, how and why is this happening? Did Bennett and Lapid make a mistake? Did he make a move that made him seem more popular than them in the long run? What happened? How did this happen?
I do think, it ties back to part of why Bennett is so popular is obviously he used to be a big hit with right-wing voters until his last coalition, where a lot of people did think he would never come back to politics.
Yeah.
But his team up with he's obviously made a name for himself as being willing to sit in a party with people who are different than him, but the party in a coalition and everything, which I do think scares people across the aisle, because the more we progress, the more there's the talks of war with Iran, Palestinian statehood. You've got the Board of Peace and the Gaza stuff, which is still going on.
Yep.
There's still soldiers in Gaza. There's soldiers in Lebanon. Yes, stuff is happening across the ocean, but we still have stuff in our own front and backyard.
Yep.
Always important to remember. And I do think as that progresses, yes, Bennett's going to say, he'll do everything he can to bring everyone home. He was just on 103 FM talking about it. But we are a very, I don't know if to say militant, but we are a military-forward country. Most of us serve. The topic of you need to serve in the military is a big hit everywhere. And Eisenkot led the military. That's something where the more we're look, the reality is, I know everyone talks about how this won't be a forever war, but it sure has been in at least 3 years.
And in the 1,000-day war.
Yeah,
it is.
It's been 1,000 days. Hostages back, phenomenal. The soldiers aren't back yet.
Right.
We're still getting death notifications and stuff. they're talking about they're talking about extending mandatory service now. They're talking about calling up a bunch new reservists to cover for the fact that Haredim will not enlist.
Yeah, and also the people who are finishing the mandatory service now have to be extended by 2 months.
Yes.
Which is like, I would shoot myself in the foot.
Awful.
Genuinely.
Especially since, and look, from a governmental standpoint, it saves them a lot of money. The base salary for a reservist is 9,000 shekel a month.
Yeah.
By extending mandatory service,
it's a lot lower.
It's significantly lower. You're saving so much money to give to the Haredim for their daycares.
Yeah, that is the real girl math.
But it is the point where we're in this constant state of war. We're in the middle of one, we're wrapping one up, we're starting a new one every single day, and we're coming up with all these really fun names to distract from the fact that really it's still the first war that never actually ended.
Right. And also, mark my words, once everything starts to calm down, I promise you we're going to open up a special operation to the West Bank to deal with security threats.
Of course. Well, they are.
It's in the barrel. It's just waiting.
I promise you they already have just the committee that comes up with the names has not finished filling out the questionnaire.
But then they won't put out the...
They're going to tweet it, and then they're going to change the name in English 2 more times because they found a better translation. Just like every other operation so far.
So it seems that in a way the whole, just like the issue of security and like pragmatic security and getting back to normal and realizing that like we have to end the war at some point, this is sustainable, is kind of something that, is clearly prevailing. Now the question is, what is Eisenkot saying or promising that I guess is more assuring than what Bennett and Lapid are?
I think there's a matter of all of them are, I think they'll, regardless of who ends up being the winner, they'll obviously all sit on a coalition together very nicely. They all do have very similar core values and core promises that they're making of ending the wars once and for all and bringing everyone home and supporting the reservists over those who refuse to enlist. But I think what it would come down to is a matter of, well, who actually has experience? Bennett, I'm pretty sure, was in Sayeret Matkal, so he was in an elite operations unit in the military. But Eisenkot was as big as you could get in there. So he, at the end of the day, is the one who, in theory, does know how to end a war.
Right.
Like, he's the one who, if I were going to pick someone to lead through an operation, it would be the guy who I know has done it.
Yeah. And it's interesting because, for the past, over a decade, Netanyahu's had this mantle of like the security guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if Israel is going to move on, they kind of need someone who they can trust to be a security guy because...
you want to talk about a wartime prime minister.
Right.
Eisenkot also... Yeah.
We could talk about the wartime prime ministering that's been happening and
there's also
or lack thereof.
That Bennett and Lapid are both career politicians. For one, as is Netanyahu, these are people who have been in government in some way or another for like some 20 years. Eisenkot is, we know him from, obviously he's been around, he's been unnamed for his career in the military, which ended in 2019, I think.
Yes,
1920, about then. But he is the new face in politics that everyone is craving. There's a matter of people say, like, just not Bibi, but there's also actually no one else.
Right, he's a qualified, not legacy politician.
He is indeed qualified,
which is comforting.
Being not Bibi.
Absolutely.
It is pretty cool. It is very much like a mark in the positive direction for a lot of people. But it's also, there is the fact that when obviously Bennett and Lapid were this shiny new thing, but Bennett was prime minister before for a very brief period.
He makes it very clear in all of his announcements.
Yes,
former prime minister.
Former prime minister Sally Bennett. And, wars did not end when Bennett was prime minister. It didn't stop. Lapid, I believe, also took a month in the big seat, and wars did not end.
Right.
So there is a matter of all of you have had a chance. You've had a shot, and you couldn't make it work. Bennett made one of the craziest moves in Israeli politics, full stop, and that wasn't enough.
Right.
So it is like maybe what you do need is someone who is just a completely clean slate. We can't say, well, these are his policies for certain, because everyone can talk as much as they want, but we're not going to know this is what he truly feels and believes until
he does it. Yeah.
He does.
I think another interesting element here is that this like merger situation that Bennett and Lapid have, it's kind of unclear.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not very direct about if they think this is going to be like a lasting political dynasty, about how like this is a party that they want to continue, that's going to be a merger of like right and left, or if it's like just for this election and then afterwards like we'll see. So like while like in theory, right? So like in theory, like I like the idea, but it doesn't have any inherent continuity. It's kind of like the Board of Peace. It's like, oh cool, there's a Board of Peace. What happens when Trump's out? No clue. Should we figure that out beforehand? Probably. Are we going to? No, I don't know.
If you remember, there was like years ago, there was a moment where the Knesset tried to come up with a sort of rotating, like, let's take turns being prime minister. I think Lapid was there for that.
Yeah. The problem is...
Yes, it obviously did not work for longer than a week. Because
coalition has to stay together for that to happen.
Well, both of them would be like, okay, but I'll go first.
Yeah.
So it could be that they're like, we're agreeing on this, but I'm first. I will say it's endless.
Yeah, as of right now, Lapid was like, no, it's Bennett. But again, like we want continuity, right? We don't want to go back to 5 elections in a year.
It is endlessly ironic to call a party together, but it's led by just one guy.
Literally, yeah.
But it is like there could be like that could be the matter of, oh, we're doing it this time with me at the forefront, but he's my right hand and he's my guy and he's my close personal friend. But then it could like that could open the door if they were committed to like really doing the whole like this is lasting and this is real true partnership between the right and the left. You could flip it to be like, and next.
No, you're right. But I think like politics is like 80% messaging. And if your message isn't a resounding, we're going to make sure everything's right, not in the first week, but over the next few years and make sure it maintains that way, then it does seem a bit shoddy. Mm-hmm. Whereas I think with Eisenkot, I think it's been very, very consistent, very clear about what he believes on. The second he thought that Benny Gantz was like, not being pragmatic or like defending Netanyahu because where he shouldn't, he immediately split. He's like, bye. I think that was pretty much the beginning of the end of Gantz's party, but I don't think he's really gone back on what his beliefs are.
I don't think he really gets counted in polling or anything these days.
Yeah, no.
He's not someone that anyone's taking seriously anymore.
Yeah, so sad.
Break for Newcastle, as they say.
Yeah, but again, this is all to say it's not like a given that now he's going to win or he's going to be able to form a coalition. There's just an interesting shift because for a good few months, Eisenkot was kind of like an afterthought. Like, yeah, he'll be like a middle of the pack, 7 or 8 seats, nice coalition buddy, whatever. And he's really pulled through.
I think that's also something. I like someone who's, not to use the term a staunch moderate, if you will, but there is something to be said of, you noted like his opening campaign speech was very just
consistently principled.
We're gonna do what it takes,
So while Eisenkot has been consistent, another group who has been very consistent over the past months, years, forever is the haredim. So 2 very contentious pieces of legislation have passed this week. There is the basic law of Torah study, and there's the temporary freeze of the arrest of draft dodgers law. I don't know in the history of the world if there's a country that has a mandatory conscription that ever passed a law to prevent enforcing it, but like it to the way of stopping arrests.
Not that many democracies have mandatory conscription anymore.
I'm not even limiting it to democracies. I'd say the non-democratic countries probably enforce it even more.
Well, of course. So a non-democratic state is not going to consider halting arrest for anything.
Right.
Well, they do. They don't. In South Korea, they won't arrest you if you become a K-pop idol. It is a similar logic of you can get an exemption and do national service. You're doing
national service, doing a lot of heavy lifting here. Let's break these down a little bit. So first of all, there's the basic law, Torah study law. Mm-hmm. So
enshrining the study of Torah in our country's core values.
So what does this mean? A basic law. So Israel doesn't have a constitution, which if you ask,
we have a constitution.
We've been working on it since the 80s. Everyone in their powers.
They're working on it. They'll get there.
I don't want to. I could do a full monologue on just how much Israel needs a constitution. It would be a full episode, but I'm not going to do that right now. But since we don't have a constitution, we have these things called basic laws, which are essentially they have the same legal weight as a constitutional law, where whenever you pass a new law or anything goes up to the courts, they have to first and foremost make sure that like whatever law or breaking of a law that we're discussing doesn't first infringe on these laws. So at first you might be asking yourself, like, what's so bad about saying in the Jewish state?
Just the sentence of here we have our Jewish democratic state. Torah study is a core part of that. And you hear that as its own and you go,
yeah, it's a given. It's the Jewish
solid.
state.
Yeah.
Who's trying to infringe on Torah study? Why would we need to codify it? And you remember, oh, it's because we want to draft haredim. What happened was there was a few rounds where the initial wording of the law was to say that like somebody who studies Torah is in essence equal
country
in the same way of like a soldier.
Yes.
And I would say like surprisingly and like very positively, the Religious Zionist Party said absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all for, codifying Torah study and make sure it's one of the most like basic fundamental values of the country. But to say that it's equal to someone who serves in the military.
Yeah, because once when you do that, and this was the issue that many people in and out of the Knesset raised. Once I equate if you're a soldier and I'm a girl who studies Torah every single day, then I could then go to the government to be like, if we're equals, why aren't I getting paid?
Why aren't you paying for my college degree?
Yeah. Where's my housing?
Yeah. And that's in addition to the exemption and not helping the manpower crisis.
Yeah.
There's layers to how messed up this is.
So so it would be you'd be putting.
And also the fact that it's a basic law means that you can't even revert to the basic laws to say, here's why I need to circumvent this to draft you because it's for a matter of national security, because it's like the most untouchable legal norm is like, yeah. So what essentially happened was there was like a really like back and forth. They changed the wording in a lot of ways. At the end, it doesn't explicitly say it's the same level and like equation to like someone who's in the army, but I guarantee you this is only the beginning.
Oh yeah,
they will still use this for the basis of a legal argument to say, oh well, if this is a basic law, it doesn't matter if I'm equal to a soldier or not. You're infringing on my basic human right to study Torah as per Israeli law. The fact that it passed, again, was a huge uproar this week and the last week, and also like in the lead up, and it's like very problematic. This is only like the beginning of it.
Yeah.
The after effects of it are only going to be felt in the next few months and years.
Will not take long until the first case reaches the Supreme Court of I deserve to get paid for studying Torah. I am protecting my country the same way a soldier is.
Absolutely. I also think that this is part of like a bigger trend in the sense that like because there isn't this clear line that a constitution would really help cough of like where our laws are and where's the division of like democratic and Jewish, is that we also see...
Well, there's still no, even you said democratic and Jewish, there is still no consensus on if we are a Jewish democratic state or a democratic Jewish state.
Correct.
A lot of our issues stem from that.
I agree.
Especially...
No, but now you see like rabbinical courts getting expanded responsibilities and request civil claims in rabbinical courts as opposed to like actual courts, and like it's just going to continue. So that's very bad. And I think the timing of it is very unfortunate for Netanyahu because it's a widely unpopular law and it's right before elections. So we'll have to see how he diverts the attention away from it. So the second law that passed this week that actually, as we filmed just now, the High Court says that they were going to freeze it, thank God, was the temporary halting of arrests for draft dodgers, which is insane.
All these bills do, the three big ones of the blitz were the legislative blitz, which is the last, like to just explain, the last week that the Knesset is working before we officially begin the break leading up to elections. Today is actually the last legislative day,
right?
As well, so they're pushing.
And they've also tried like splitting the Attorney General role, and there's the whole the communications and broadcasting. Yeah.
They're trying to do as much as they can in the span.
In record time, yeah.
Which is, today is just filibuster after filibuster. They're going as hard as they can on it. But these three big rules, so we have the Basic Law Torah study, we have freezing the arrest of draft dodgers, and subsequently expanding mandatory service. They all do go hand in hand.
Absolutely.
It all comes down to, we don't want to serve in the military.
And I just want to point out that like this, this passed after, forget like, members of Knesset, but like the chief of staff, El Zamir, was like, you can't do this. Like, we are in a manpower crisis. I mean, we've been in a manpower crisis. It's clearly not getting better because the FADC won't do anything about it, but like, you cannot pass this law.
And in response, Likud member Tali Gottlieb said, know your place, and then told Bibi to fire him.
Yes, because that's her place.
Yes.
So, yeah, I think the ultimate question that we're all waiting to see, and this kind of circles back to the first thing we were talking about, is that, your coalition just passed one of the most unpopular laws in the country's history, while also passing the Basic Law Torah study.
You did it so that you could have the chance at a coalition next Knesset.
Right, but this is also
Who's voting?
while you're
Yeah.
demonstrating, like in real time, how when you really want to, you can actually spend a lot of time trying to pass legislation and being an efficient government. But for the past 3.5 years, we've had threats to publicly name and shame Knesset, like members of committees, because they won't show up to committees because they actually don't care enough.
I mean, it happened this week.
Yeah, like, so all of this is happening at the same time, just as the date of elections was like,
And you will note, who did not show up to vote in favor of draft dodgers evading arrest? Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
no, it's even better
He was
than that.
not there.
No, it's even better that he showed up, he got booed, and then he left.
Nice.
Which is like even worse than not showing up.
He did not vote.
Yeah, you're right. No, you're right. But he didn't vote.
No, at the end of the day, he actually did not cast his vote, which I promise you he will bring up.
I know. I cannot wait to argue with people about it.
When it happens, both him and his fan base.
And he'll say that, this was a mistake and we're going to fix it and blah, blah, blah. But then this all leaves a question, because all of these rather unfortunate developments that he kind of was forced to do because of coalition dynamics, right as the election dates have been
He heavy quotes around forced.
Right. How is he going to get out of this? You're Netanyahu, what do you do? Start a war with Iran? Do you bring back the reform? What's on the plate? What are you going to do?
I hate to say he's a politician. He's going to try and talk his way out of it. There are a few options. There is the fact that knowing the exponential growth of the Haredi population means that with every passing election, they could potentially gain more and more seats.
Yeah, that's not going to happen in 3 months.
Yeah.
That's his end game for when he's 100 and he's still going to be a prime minister.
The end game is leaning into that side more. If he's looking towards the future of Likud, after he sucked the life out of some young ingenue to live another 100 years,
right,
or whatever they choose.
Probably the Likud's also furious at him because of the primary issue, and they feel like he's cast them off to the side. So
yeah. There's the fact that he's not even the biggest fan of primaries at the moment, since he did push for making his own list.
Right.
And he did get his reserved slots. It's 8 slots in the first 30.
He's allegedly flying to the U.S. on Sunday for the Lindsey Graham memorial.
He's not flying for Lindsey Graham's memorial. He is.
I know, he's to talk about Iran.
He's flying for a political summit with the president.
Yeah.
Under the guise of supporting Lindsey Graham.
Right, what I'm saying is, like, in very Netanyahu-esque fashion, he won't be home to do the house cleaning.
Yes. I can't fathom. There are a lot of things in life where you sometimes do just have to admit you don't understand, truly. And it is, look, he's putting all of his eggs in this basket, and he really is counting the money way before he has reached the stairs. I don't know if that translates very well, but he is really putting every single possible cart before the horse and the donkey and the mule.
He's leaning into it as hard as he can.
Going as hard as he can in this whole, if I give the Haredi what they want, next coalition, when I obviously receive the mandate again,
then I'll be able to.
They will join me. And then I'll have 3.5 more years to do middle ground nonsense before we do another week of giving the Haredi what they want, and the cycle continues. But I can't wrap my head. I am just the girl. I cannot wrap my head around the logic of putting all of your eggs in one basket and essentially deserting your actual party's values for it. A party which claims to be which claims to be center.
Yeah.
Some argue center left.
No, listen, the key takeaways here, first of all, over the next few weeks and months, there's going to be a lot of messaging.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a lot of focusing on things that are happening at the current moment and only focusing on them. I guarantee you there's going to be a lot of messaging about the fact that the entire Middle East is attacking Iran for us while we get to keep our hands clean. And to that I would say,
I am excited to see how Netanyahu tries to spin it, because...
Yeah, but you can't think that way, because that leads you to think well, he's so good at doing this, so therefore I should vote for him because it's so admirable.
Okay.
Because I see how this turns in people's heads, and it's like this vicious cycle. It's like you could observe something from afar.
No, I think there's something to be said at recognizing that this man is and always has been a good speaker, and that's why I'm from a former debate team captain. I'm interested in knowing how he's going to try and convince the public that this was a good thing, actually. And some people are the same way that you have some people who are, I will vote for anyone who is not Benjamin Netanyahu. There are people who I will vote for anything that has Benjamin Netanyahu's face on it.
Right.
That, there will be people who buy that. But then there are a lot of people who, and look, it is from a psychological standpoint, it's very hard to change someone's mind about, especially in the realm of politics. It does.
Absolutely.
It does take an act of
Especially if
God.
you've backed something for so long and
There's confirmation bias, there's all that. It does usually take an act of God the likes of October 7th to study the effects that can have on people's political viewpoints. It's why we don't have much knowledge about how this can affect people psychologically.
I'd even say it's why we don't have a probe, but like, Miani. Anyway, yeah. So
But the point is, it's unclear depending on what there are a lot of people who are up in the air right now, who they are. I know that in my heart I feel betrayed, but I don't know where to go. And so what he says next will essentially determine if people end up turning to the left or to the right. Because let's be real, if you don't want to vote for Netanyahu, but you instead cast your vote for Smotrich or Ben-Gvir, you are voting for the Netanyahu coalition.
Right.
Like that is at the end. No one is deluding themselves into thinking that Smotrich is going to be the next prime minister except for Smotrich. But like, it's true. He did say it. Like,
I know, it was very cute.
he said it yesterday. It was really like, it was kind of precious. But
Yeah. So I'll just end on saying this, that like I hope that I'm not even going to convince anyone to vote a certain way or other. I hope that like as an individual, people have the capacity to remember specific incidents in a wider context. Meaning, don't just look at what's happening right now. Look
you
at the past.
have to look at the 4 years.
Look at the past 4 years. I mean that even if you think the situation right now with the entire rest of the world attacking Iran is great, still put that in the context of the 4 years. And I even mean this week about the fact that they passed these 2 terrible, egregious laws, also in the context of the 4 years.
But you're not telling people if things are good or better to vote for.
No, if I did, you would know. It would be very
No,
clear.
but there is a matter of, look, there are things that you can argue were acts of God and couldn't be held against the government. You can also argue that you had...
You could argue that. I just think it's a shit argument, but like whatever.
Yeah,
Well,
no, you definitely can argue that, but even still, like, because the question you should be asking yourself before an election is, do I want what just happened to happen again? Do I want, like, if these past 4 years in between 2026 and 2030, do I want what just happened from 2022 on? Was any of that cool with me? And something you can't...
No, that's a good benchmark. Just,
Yeah.
am I net better off or worse off?
Are we better? And look, I will say...
I think we all have the answer, but like, whatever. Yeah. So again, this is only the beginning of election season. It's only going to get more loud.
Yeah.
We're going to have multiple episodes on this. And yeah,
We will
stay
be
vigil,
covering- Yeah.
pay attention, think about things in context, and, listen to what they have to say. Let them make their case.
Yeah, honestly, let them, everyone now has to, every single person up for election is going to spend the next few weeks selling themselves to you and selling themselves to the general public. And you only have one vote. And you have to make sure that you do what allows you to sleep at night.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But thanks for joining us.
Always a pleasure.
That's all we have for this week. Don't worry, there's going to be plenty more where this came from. This is only the beginning. In the meantime, make sure to visit jpost.com for the latest in Israel news.